guys, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Divyanka, and on this channel I strive to provide you with resources to build that ideal professional life. Alright, so we've all been there. We know in an interview that question is coming. We know it's the first thing that they're gonna ask, and then they ask it. Tell me about yourself. And you freeze, or you don't know what to say, or you say something and then in hindsight, you're like, oh my God, that could have been so much better. But that's okay. You live and you learn, and you know that for next time, you need to prepare. So that's what we are talking about today. How to answer this most common interview question, tell me about yourself. Although it seems like a completely simple question at first, we all know that if you're asked and you're not prepared to answer this, it can completely throw you off guard. And like I mentioned, this is usually the first question that you get asked in an interview. So if you get stuck, it kind of sets the tone for the rest of that conversation. We want to start the interview off strong, answer this question to the T, and make sure that we make a good impression. Although it might seem like an icebreaker question, it's not. This is your chance to really hook that interviewer and let them know what your personality is, what you're all about. It's literally your chance to tell them about yourself. So you need to make sure that what you want to say, how you want to say it, how you want it to come across is all kind of picture perfect. So let's start with the things that you should not say. First off, don't make this a life story. They're not asking about your whole life story, so don't give them that. They don't really want your personal details. Although the question at its core is, tell me about yourself, they're not asking for any personal details. They don't want to know about your dog, about the history of your friends, about what you like to eat for lunch. We know that that's not what they're asking about, so don't give them your full life story. Again, that's not what they're seeking. You really need to tailor this to exactly what they're looking for, which we'll get to in a little bit. Second, you do not want to make it too long. This is your elevator pitch. This is a tell me about yourself, quick, what are you about? You don't need to make it longer than 1 to 2 minutes. It really needs to be short, sweet, and to the point. Again, in that minute, you want to make sure you're hooking them, you're not boring them, you're giving them enough flavor to have them ask you questions. Think of it like a movie trailer or the back of a book. Once you read that or watch that, it entices you to watch or read it further. You want to dive deeper into it. So think of your elevator pitch like that. Give them enough flavor where it's like, ooh, this person's a little interesting. Don't tell them your life story. That's not what they're after. And again, don't be boring. Third, do not read them your resume. They have most likely read your resume. That's why you're sitting there. So there's absolutely no point just reiterating all the things on your resume. This is your chance to go deeper. This is your chance to show them what a piece of paper cannot. You need to show personality. You need to dive deeper into the things that are on your resume that you really want to call out and again are going to add value to this role and to this company. Lastly, this might be really tempting and you might not even notice you do this, but you don't want to just talk about all the problems you're facing in your current role. Now, this has happened, and I've literally witnessed this in interviews where I ask the candidate, tell me about yourself or tell me why you're here, and they just kind of go on a soliloquy of, all the problems they're dealing with and what they're looking for. Again, that's not the space to do this. That question will probably come up and you can add flavor to it later, but don't take this precious time where they're asking you about yourself where you can really sell yourself and just talk about problems and complain. Not a good first look. Okay, so I just went over what all not to say, but what do you actually do to prepare for this time in an interview to really kick it out of the park? First, write it down. Make this like a speech that you are to practice and actually write it out. Write out what you want to say. I have done this, and although it's weird, you're really talking about yourself, you're writing a paragraph about yourself, a paragraph which you want to say very naturally, but you have to write it down to practice. Again, doesn't sound very logical, but it is, because you need to know and calculate exactly the words that are going to be coming out of your mouth in this 1 minute. Again, it's like a movie trailer. It's like a little ad. You have to at least know what points you want to hit to make sure that the interviewer gets what you're saying. So write it down, make sure all the points you want to hit are there, have other people read it, say it out loud from there, and mess with it on paper until it's at a point where you're like, yep, this hits all the value points that I have. And then when you say it with your personality, of course, that should bring it all together. So first step, write it down. Second step, practice that. Once you have it written down, you want to practice, 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 practice. Again, this is something that should literally roll off the tip of your tongue. You can't seem like you practice this. Like, this can't seem like something that you have written down and you've practiced, even though that's actually what you're doing. Because it's weird. If someone asks you about yourself and you stand there like you're reading a speech, it's kind of weird because that's going to come off as really ingenuine. They're asking about you. So if you have to memorize things about yourself and you sound calculated and memorized, again, it just gives off a really weird vibe. So practice it until it is natural. Practice it until the words that are coming out of your mouth actually sound like you mean them. And again, I know this is weird. Like, it's going to be so weird the first few times you do it. But then when you get to the point where it is super natural, trust me, it is so worth it. Because then when you're in an interview and actually talking to a person, that personality flair comes in, the way you are comes in, and those words will be brought to life, especially if you're excited about what you're saying, if you're excited about the role, if you're showing that enthusiasm. It's going to be exciting, and the person's going to be like, oh my God, tell me more. So you want to make sure that you're practicing again until it is natural. My next point kind of rolls off of that, and that is to make sure that you sound confident and you make it sound natural. Again, the second maybe will be more from the practice, but you can practice that confidence. Again, you are talking about yourself. This is an ad. You are showing yourself off. You're showing your best qualities. So you need to actually sound like you mean that. If I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm like a really good leader and I did all this in my past role and that's why I think I'm a good fit for this role. And yeah, if you're gonna do it like that and not be confident about it and be a little shy and not own up to the fact that these are the things that you've done, this is what you stand for, and this is what you want, again, that message is just not going to come across. Even if you're not as confident of a person, and even if you're not as confident in the rest of the interview, this is your place. You are talking about yourself. You're getting the floor to literally say anything you want. So the last thing you can do is not be confident. Now, when you're writing it and drafting what you want your answer to be and sound like, you need to make sure of one thing, and that one thing is that you need to make it about them. Highlight what value you bring to the table for them. Now, this is a concept that has literally been blaringly in my face so many times in the past, I would say 2 years, in so many ways, and interviews is one of them. Again, you're there to not only give this interview, feel the company out, feel the hiring manager out, but they are looking to hire someone, which means that they have needs to fill. It is your job to make sure that you know what those needs are and you tell them that, look, I know these are your needs and this is exactly how I fill those needs. That is all a company is looking for. If you can do the job, you show them that you can do the job in the interview and you just lay it out for them, they have very little space to say no. But it's tricky. To do that, you really have to finesse it into this speech. Again, highlight kind of your personality, things you've done, how that makes you valuable, but then also how those valuable things and valuable skills actually fill the gaps that they're looking to fill. So again, don't just concentrate on yourself, even though the question is, tell me about yourself. Maybe even end the speech by, I know that you're looking for XYZ, or I know that this company looks for XYZ type of people, and lead it on from there. Again, make sure to make it about them. I cannot stress this point enough. Now, the next point goes off of that. In your speech, as you're going to be talking about what gaps they have and how you fill them, not only are you going to talk about these skills that you have, but that's where you bring in quick past experiences. And again, this is all under 1 minute. So you want to make sure that you pull those 1 to 2 key experiences that are really going to set you apart. Why this is important is because you can't just say, look, you have these needs, I feel them because I'm perfect. Like, you can't just state that or state that you have XYZ skill. You need to give some supporting evidence of you performing like that before, of you having such a responsibility before, to convince them that, hey, look, I've kind of done something like this before, or if it's a transferable skill, something where you pull an experience into, again, a skill set that they are looking for. So you really need to make sure that you're pulling in support. You're not just saying governing statements that don't mean anything without that support. And again, you want to make sure you write this into your speech. So don't go too far with this. You don't need to support it with your whole, again, history or your whole resume. Just pull those 1 to 2 key supporting statement experiences. And again, intertwine all of that into this beautiful 1 minute speech. Now, another thing you want to make sure you mention in your elevator pitch and in your answer to tell me about yourself is what you're looking for. So you want to make sure, again, that you're filling the gaps of what the company's looking for, but then you need to answer the question, why are you here? So you really need to pull in, again, all your experiences and say, this is what I've done, this is why it's going to help you, and this is why it's going to help me. You have to understand and show them that this is why this role, this company actually fits into the future career you're looking for. I know it's a lot to take into consideration in this short 1 minute, but you really do have to hit all these points. Telling them why you're even there, what you want your future to look like, and how this role can actually help in that shows the company, shows the interviewer that you are forward thinking. It shows them that you have a plan. It shows them that you're actually thinking and strategizing about the steps that you're taking, and it's not just arbitrary. You're not just going for any role out there. So again, it really brings all the information together. It ties it all together. The why are you here is so, so important. So make sure that you're not just pulling from your past, but you also mention where you want to go in the future. My next tip is to make sure you add that little flair of passion to this elevator pitch. Again, it goes back to not being dry, but don't just be excited. Like, show your passion for something. If it's the work, if it's the manager, if you've looked into their history and you really like something about them, or if it's the company. Like, I had a company that I interviewed for, and that was just always a goal company, and I said that in the interview. So you need to show some kind of passion. Like, why are you here? Why does this matter to you? The people who this matters to the most, even if they don't have the key technical skills, are usually chosen because they're actually passionate about either the work or the company or something that they're about to step into, and that is something that's not replaceable. Technical skills can be taught, and more often than not, they know they're going to have to teach you that stuff. So passion, your attitude, your personality really goes a long way, and you want to make sure it comes across. Now, don't be overly passionate. You can't be excited about absolutely everything. Make sure you're still very professional. But again, make it realistic. Like, if you love the company, if you just be passionate. Like, I don't have to go on forever talking about this. Be passionate, make sure you show that, and again, it's really gonna make that difference. My last tip is make sure to make it a story. It's not fun to listen to someone just list things. I am this, I have these skills, you need this is what I fit, this is what I'm looking for, end of story. No, make it a story, string them along. Continuing on that whole trailer book metaphor, a movie doesn't just like bring you to the movie and then just list all the things for you. It takes you through the story. Your emotions are led up and down, and you kind of want to do that in this. If you're passionate about something, if you've had struggles, if you're going to talk about your past experiences, whatever your situation is, bring them along with you. Don't just expect them to know it. Don't expect them to get it. Really make it a story. When you're answering questions, be like, as you saw on my resume, Or as I mentioned in my previous answer to this question, tie everything together. Make sure they understand your story. Make sure they understand where you're coming from, where you want to go, how all these pieces kind of tie together. I promise you it's going to make a world of a difference, because that's going to make the interviewer feel like they are actually connected with you. They get it. They get your story. They get where you're coming from, and they can probably help you, and they're going to want to help you. So again, make it a story, bring them along, show them your passion, show them everything you've got. And when you present it in that way, you tie that story bow on it, it's just there's nothing that beats that. Like, then it becomes that conversation that people tell you to have in an interview. It just naturally flows, and you'll notice that it goes back and forth. It just might not be question or answer. It's going to be a conversation. They're going to say something, you're going to say something, and it's just a lot more fun for both parties. And again, you make the interviewer feel way more connected to you, and you definitely increase your chances of landing that job. So if you didn't take anything else away from this, make sure to kind of take that story part. It is so important. Those were all my tips on what not to say and what to do to prepare to answer this question, tell me about yourself. Again, we all know how important this question is. You're gonna hands down get it in every interview. If that's not the wording they use, then they might twist it a little bit. But I promise you, this is going to be in every single interview. So you might as well write it down, learn how to crack it, and just kick it out of the park. Again, making that first impression is so important, and it really does set the stage for the rest of the conversation. You don't want the rest of the 30 minutes to be miserable, so make sure you prepare, you come across professionally and interesting, and I promise you, you will personally have a better interview experience. Make sure to practice, know all the details like the back of your hand, make it sound natural, and I promise you this will work wonders. That is it for today's video. I really hope this was helpful for you guys. More interview tips coming your guys' way. That is it for today's video, and you guys will of course see me in the next one.